found yourself repeatedly engaging in certain behaviors and wondering if other people do them as often as you do? Behaviors such as checking the internet every time you find a scratch or a bruise to see if you have some deadly disease, or spending hours a day grooming your hair, cutting it, shaving it, or pulling it out. Even daily nail biting or picking at your skin. Maybe a part of you knows that indulging in the behavior is to avoid a fearful emotion or fearful outcome from happening, and part of you knows that doing the behavior won't prevent your fears from becoming reality. Yet you believe the repetitive behavior or act is the only way to alleviate your anxiety. It's kind of like oddly feeling powerless and yet all-powerful, like you have control one minute and then vulnerable or helpless the next. In the mental health world, we talk a lot about obsessive thoughts, ruminations, or the tangled web of overthinking. But what happens when those endless loops of thoughts lead to repetitive and compulsive behaviors? Compulsive behaviors are a cycle of actions we engage in as a result of these obsessive thoughts, to try to soothe or numb the thoughts, to find any sort of relief from our emotional distress or anxiety, even if it's temporary. Whether it's overeating, spending too much money, cleaning or organizing things excessively, or any other habit that seems to control us more than we control it, we've all been there at some point in our lives. But why do we engage in these behaviors? What really drives us to repeat actions that we know aren't ultimately good for us? Hi, and welcome to The Inspired Therapist, where we blend science, a little mysticism, and psychology to encourage you to optimize your mental health. I'm Mary Gaskill, licensed counselor in private practice, and I appreciate you being here. Today, we will shed some light on the shadow of fear and distress that drives our compulsions. Globally, an estimated 3% of the population, or 240 million people, struggle with some form of compulsive behavior. Some of the most common compulsions we will see in a clinical setting include obsessive compulsive disorder, or OCD, which is characterized by recurrent intrusive thoughts, obsessions, and repetitive behaviors or mental acts, compulsions, aimed at reducing anxiety or distress. Common compulsions include excessive hand washing, checking, like repeatedly checking if you lock the door, counting, or arranging items in a particular order. Binge eating disorder involves consuming large quantities of food in a short period, accompanied by a sense of loss of control and distress. Individuals may engage in binge eating episodes to cope with negative emotions or stress, despite negative consequences for their physical and emotional well-being. Trichotillomania, or hair pulling disorder, is recurrent pulling out of one's hair, leading to hair loss and distress. Individuals may pull hair from the scalp, eyebrows, eyelashes, or other parts as a way to relieve tension or manage emotional discomfort. Body dysmorphic disorder involves a preoccupation with perceived flaws or defects in one's appearance, which are often minor or non-existent. Individuals may engage in compulsive behaviors such as excessively grooming, mirror checking, or seeking reassurance from others to alleviate distress related to their appearance concerns. Other compulsions can include repeatedly seeking reassurance from yourself or others, like asking your partner, "We're not going to break up, right?" Mentally reviewing past situations to check that you didn't do anything wrong. Thought suppression, or trying not to think certain thoughts. There are many more compulsions that people can have, and they tend to be developmental. In other words, some behaviors may occur more often at certain times in our lives. Compulsive behaviors such as repetitive checking, counting, or tapping may be common during childhood and adolescence. Conditions like obsessive compulsive disorder or OCD often emerge during these developmental stages. Young adults may be particularly susceptible to compulsive behaviors related to technology and social media, such as excessively checking of social media notifications or compulsive online shopping. Middle-aged adults may experience compulsive behavior related to work, finances, or maintaining a certain image. Compulsive gambling, for example, often affects individuals in their middle years. In the older adult population, compulsive behaviors can include hoarding and compulsive shopping. So I've mentioned that these acts are attempts to reduce distress, but let's look a little more deeply at what can cause these behaviors. From a psychological perspective, compulsive behaviors can be seen as coping mechanisms. Usually what happens is we experience an uncomfortable emotion like sadness, despair, frustration, or loneliness, and we don't know what to do about it. Or we haven't been taught by parents, caregivers, or others in our lives how to experience the emotion, or that it's okay and tolerable to do so. So then we want to numb the emotional pain or gain a sense of control when we feel our minds, bodies, our hearts are in chaos. We find a behavior that works, and so we keep doing it until it becomes our go-to action when we feel uncomfortable or need to soothe ourselves. It can be difficult to recognize when a behavior becomes compulsive. It can kind of sneak up on us. In some cases, the behavior, when not done in compulsory excess, may be a healthy, positive one. Take exercise, for example. Generally speaking, exercise has a multitude of benefits for your body and mind. However, if it's done too often, too intensely, and out of an irresistible urge to do so, it becomes compulsive and not healthy for your body or mind. Compulsions may have a genetic component. They are often seen in identical twins, for example, and they can often arise after stressful events such as trauma or abuse. Again, when we don't know how to handle the pain, we try to avoid it. Compulsive behaviors also involve our brain's reward system. When we engage in these actions, our brain releases dopamine, our neurotransmitter associated with pleasure and reward and relief. Over time, we become hooked on this dopamine rush, leading to compulsive repetition of the behavior. The problem is that compulsive behavior hijacks the brain reward circuitry, creating a cycle of craving and reward that can be difficult to break. And it can feel like other things just won't work as well as the behavior, so we keep doing it. So how can you stop the behavior from taking over your life? Well, true healing occurs when we first excavate the root causes of our compulsions and then take steps to reconnect with our inner wisdom and divine essence that allows us to believe that we can tolerate uncomfortable emotions. Healing also comes from addressing our shame or embarrassment around the act, which of course we don't want anyone to feel that way. Stay tuned to part 2 of this video series on compulsions, where we will dive into real ways you can heal from the grip of these compulsive habits. Thank you for watching The Inspired Therapist. Until part 2, know that you can rewrite the narrative of compulsive behaviors in your life, and it's an honor to be with you in this process.